lecture today, actually, and my deep gratitude to the professors of the department of a university, and of course, dear Handa, to you for the kind invitation. So let me share my screen right now. Great. I hope that you see the PowerPoint file, the presentation. First of all, I would like to let you know a little bit, to introduce about the theoretical background, the methodology that always is behind the scenes when working text, when working on literary text, and trying to get over some concept jargon around the text. The core concept is the term of Neganthropocene. First of all, you can see that a word or two on the title, which pertains to the scientific notion of negentropy, a notion which is used and interpreted idiosyncratically and thought-provokingly in Bernard Stiegler's late philosophy. I have focused on this concept because I believe its application and interpretation offers a new direction in the field of environmental humanities and post-humanities as well, but generally in the field of literary and cultural studies. The focus on negentropy and the Neganthropocene, portmanteau of negentropy and Anthropocene, comes amid the mushrooming of a myriad other scenes, as you are familiar with the concepts, the terms of Anthropocene, Holocene, Capitalocene, Donna J. Haraway's Cthulhucene, Hornbong's Technocene, Jussi Parikka's Anthropocene, to name just a few. Stiegler put forward the idea of the Neganthropocene along with the ecology of the spirit as positive motives to diagnose the existential and physical reality of the Anthropocene, which is the time of unknowing consciousness. In the Anthropocene era, we are actually in terms in the same line with Stiegler, that we have an absolutely incommensurable responsibility to counter the entropic tendency of planetary capitalism and the mortal danger of climate change. Stiegler speaks of the gravity of the existential reality facing mankind and for the colossal responsibility of all humans in our time. And we can consider the truth of the Anthropocene as the movement of concealing and concealing the coming forth or rising up of a world in which are at home, its endurance, and finally, dare say, in its inclination toward the concealment and self-closeness of Earth from which the world arose. We can understand entropy and negentropy. These terms actually are found in the field of natural sciences. We adopt the jargon and concepts from natural sciences. And cosmologically, we can understand entropy as the movement from order to disorder, where energy is consumed and inevitably lost in the process. All processes in the universe move in the direction towards hate and death. There is actually a circularity, a circular, as we say, route between the terms hate, death, life, death. This process cannot be stopped, but can be slowed. As such, Stiegler posits the term negentropy, building on the theory of negative entropy proffered by the physicist Erwin Schrödinger in his book, What is Life? The Physical Aspect of the Living Cell of 1945. The abbreviation or portmanteau word used in thermodynamics, biology, and information theory, cybernetics, systems theory, and complexity theory, and developed principally by Schrödinger in his theory of quantum mechanics, combines the words negative and entropy. So Bernard Stiegler's concept of the Neganthropocene integrates thermodynamic principles with philosophical discourse to address the entropic challenges of the Anthropocene. Stiegler proposes neganthropy, a transformative process transcending biological and informational constraints, fostering a sophisticated, self-aware, and culturally enriched human existence. Influenced by 19th century conceptions of entropy, principally from the 1870s onwards, and Nietzsche's philosophical response, namely the anti-entropy of the thought of the eternal return, we can say that Stingley in Qu'appelle ton penseur is close to Deleuze in addressing the eternal return as a kind of Heraclitean fire machine as opposed to the steam engine of the Industrial Revolution. In these terms, the Anthropocene stems from the massive toxicity and entropy produced by the Industrial Revolution, which Stingler views as a technological and organological revolution, a toxic acceleration of physiological, artificial, and social organs. The Industrial Revolution is a technosphere endangering the Anthropocene or the Capitalocene. This term, the latter, is a term that has been introduced by Moore. So we can understand that Stingler's work has unfolded itself as an architecture of concepts revolving around the question of technology, which he understands broadly as denoting any external memory support. This includes, of course, digital and analog technologies, as well as other tools. His thought is extremely dense, drawing upon a rich tradition of continental philosophy, as in the book that has been here that I'm introducing to you. It's very rich of concepts from Heidegger, Merleau-Ponty, object-oriented ontology, and others, with also closely exchanging with science, physics, biology, and neuroscience. This means that we, as we say, broke the barriers, breeds all the disciplines together, because there is actually a dialogue between disciplines. This is the interdisciplinary research, as we say, that we are actually in these directions and support. For Stigler, as a direct impact on knowledge production, big data technologies disseminate an entropic form of planetary information, consumerism, which liquidates all forms of knowledge, savoir-vivre, savoir-faire, savoir conceptualiser. Stigler understands entropy in thermodynamic, as we say, biological and informational, or psychosocial terms, and at times dissolves the Anthropocene into the Anthropocene, another scene as well, because all these are neologisms to understand the current situation that we are here. We are here, and of course we have to face and ahead of us. He considers entropy in all its forms, physical, biological, informational, and looks at hyperconsumption and its dissolval as leading to the exhaustion of desire. To encounter this, negentropy is posited as a counter tendency which resists the closure of system dynamics. Bifurcation will be that counter destiny, meaning the redirection of the entropic effects ushered in by the Anthropocene. So the Anthropocene becomes the Anthropocene as it results in not only the degradation of ecological life, but also to the toxicity of social and physical life. And it is here that we have new research actually to propose and to work on, because sometimes terms and theory should be, as we say, much clearer. We have to understand the theory before moving to text, because things are very complicated in the end of the day when working on theory, and we have this dialogue between theory and text. According to Stigler, the problem, again, of the Anthropocene is that of entropy, also leading him to recast the geological era as that of the Anthropocene. The second law of thermodynamics, of course, holds that the entropy of the universe only increases, which means that the universe, conceived of as an isolated system, would inevitably move from a state of order to disorder. We play with these two terms: order, disorder, chaos and order, life and death, entropy and agentropy. The disorder in a closed system does not correspond to a state of complexity, but a state of decomplexification of entropy, which is also how it should be understood in Stigler's thought. Life is a form of differentiation, that of the complexification of biological systems. Stigler reads negandropy in the Derridian sense of difference. Consequently, since Stigler considers human life as co-constituted by technology, technology itself could be, in fact, negantropic, as it gives rise to new forms of life. And quotation, above all, techniques consist in the organization of inorganic matter, leading in return to the organological recognition of cerebral organic matter, giving rise to a new form of life, a new form of negandropy. And of course, Neganthropocene and all these scenes, all these neologisms, are in dialogue with other terms that are studied in the field of environmental humanities right now. A term that is widely accepted by leading scholars such as Hubert Chopt, professor in the Augsburg University in Germany, working on the concept of cultural ecology. Cultural ecology is a field of study that explores the dynamic relationship between human cultures and their environments. It is very important to place ourselves, to place our lives, our beings, our human culture within the environment. We are not separated from environments. We are not separated from nature, because human and non-human life forms are in pairs, are in symbiotic relationship. As actually, this is something that we have proved and worked with Professor Capuzzo, my supervisor, in our edited collection about symbiotic posthumanist ecologies, proving that humans are not separated entities from non-human world. And what we are telling, what we are thinking when we are referring to non-human world. Non-human world includes fauna, flora, plants, animals, microorganisms, fungi, whatever is surrounded us. So we're not separated from it. This is something that we have to make clear because humans and non-humans are in the same, as we say, live together in the same nature, share and communicate with each other. So cultural ecology is another core concept that examines how cultural practices, beliefs, and social structures as well adapt to and are shaped by ecological conditions, because everything that is surrounding us is shaped and structured by ecological conditions. We have extreme weather conditions, we have pandemics, we have many things that are under our, as we say, affect us a lot. Essentially, it is about understanding how humans interact with nature and vice versa, and how those interactions, those kinships, to adopt Haraway's term, symbiotic entanglements, influence the cultural development, influence our culture. And how about the future of our cultures when we are under these conditions? Tracing cultural ecology in literary text means that we have to focus on the problems of present time. When we have to study a text, we have to raise ourselves some questions about the future, about the present, about the current state, the Anthropocene, the relationship between humans and non-humans, because they are not separated entities. We have to overcome these binaries, the traditional binaries, nature and culture, no, because are in dialogue, the two, to integrative approach, which is to raise ecological awareness on the pitfalls of an interdisciplinary methodologies, approaches, transdisciplinary approaches. Because when working on literature, we have to keep in mind that behind the scenes, we have natural sciences, biology, medicine, informatics. All the disciplines are in dialogue. Cultural core of society-environment relationships, such as reflection on the society-environment relationship through culture, social studies, and anthropology here. The dialogue between human, society, and environment. This dialogue is in progress. There is no, as we say, beginning and end, because to my personal opinion, to my view, I feel that this dialogue should take many years and will be, as we say, in the discussions and debates of the future, how humans are involved, how humans have been affected by nature and vice versa. So all the concepts in the end of the day, as we say, are related concepts that explore the complexities between humans, culture, technologies, environment. If we have to analyze them more as they stand, and of course in text, we can understand that there are complexities, but there are similarities, commonalities, except of the differences. So in this lecture, I have chosen to present to you two, as we say, titles. The first one is an oil petrofiction. Again, we have to keep moving with the jargon of another widely accepted term in the fields of environmental humanities and energy humanities. Oil, like other fossil fuels, permeates every aspect of human existence. Everything now, the discussions about oil, petroleum, the petroleum crisis in the Arabic world, wars around petroleum, exploitation and colonization, you know. There are many, as we see, discussions and debates about the future of petroleum, oil, and other fuels, sustainable resources that affect our life, seeking to make visible not only the pervasiveness of oil petroleum in society and culture, but also its power. All stages a critical intervention that aligns with the broader goals of the energy humanities. Energy humanities is another branch and sibling, as we say, field of research with environmental humanities that is exclusively examines the oil, the cultural aspects, social aspects of oil in general in society, the impact of oil on our life, on human world as well, except of text. So here we have to introduce a little bit about the concept of petrofiction. Oil fiction is the same, is a literary subgenre of fiction focused on the presence and role of petroleum in society and culture. Since its inauguration, the term has been widely used in literary criticism to explore fiction. You know that we have climate fiction, oil fiction, many fictions and subgenres right now, which evaluates society's dominance by an industrial petroleum economy. How does a society and culture be saved by petroleum, and how petroleum impacts on our psychology, consciousness, perception, life, and so forth. Petrofiction is a combination of a material thing, petroleum, and the social object, fiction. The first half of the term, petro, does not define or specify the term fiction. Instead, petrofiction seems to indicate that a thematic of petroleum, drawn from the context of a work, has led to certain problems of interpretation. Sometimes, you know that in literary theory, there are actually debates about how to interpret and approach to concepts. So petrofiction as formal genre or mode are more complicit with drawing oil from the content of a story into a novel's organizing form structure, which problematically makes the narrative appear resource determined and thereby obscures the depiction of social natural relations. A little bit of theory and mapping of the term. Amitav Ghosh illuminates what petrofiction is and what was responsible for the dearth of fiction about petroleum in existing literary canon. In his work, Petrofiction, the Oil Encounter in the Novel, 1992, he highlights that petrofiction is a narrative about petroleum and all of us are affected by petroleum. This is true, actually. Petrofiction entails a remark of activism for the environment and specifically how people live and act in oil-producing communities. This is very important to understand our behavior, our actions when living in industrial and oil-producing communities, and how these things actually are approached and represented in text. We will see, as we say, in our text in a while. Moreover, he speculates that petrol-related themes have not been extensively portrayed, and it has to do with embarrassment and with cause involved. Also, Ghosh, um, communicating identifies the fact that the most places where oil is drilled did not have an early writing system. This is something that we have to take care. And the majority were incorrectly communicating their local languages, which is virtually verbal. Imre Sisman, leading scholar in environmental humanities, opts for all fiction instead, advancement the world is enjoying, as we say, or that petrofiction, as he stated, there is no way oil can be taken out of the world economic context. Grimmy MacDonald's posits that petrofiction is a wide literary spectrum, that the intention of Ghost may not be fully captured in a narrative. He is concerned about the ability of a narrative to wrap both time and space together to capture the nitty-gritty of oil-related events. His concerns are mostly for, as we say, the viability and reliability of oil fiction to not become excessive, hyperbolic, or unreal. And lastly, Michael Rubenstein, all these are scholars working on these terms and field, discusses some fundamental issues as he strives to deliver a broader and well-explained meaning of petrofiction. One of his key expressions is profoundly uneven distribution of oil's benefit, and it comes to show the degree of frustration that comes with knowing the kind of marginalization of people when living in oil communities such as the Niger Delta of Nigeria. So here, petrofiction will be proven as a reconceptualization of what the modifier petro does to the literary text of Michael Macropoulos, a modern Greek author, offering a petro-aesthetic approach to it. So let's moving to the text itself, because sometimes, as we say, the text themselves are the vivid, the vital, dynamic, core, as we say, body to manifest what all these things say and tell to us. Michael Macropoulos, The Black Water, publishing by Kihli Publications in Greece, in Greek. Hope one day to see this title translated into English. It will be fantastic, because sometimes, as we say, the texts are speaking to us, so we have it will be privileged to see translations. I have translated some passages, some extracts from this fiction. Like an eye in the wooded area, Zaravina Lake projected below, it used to have the clarity and luster of glass, but now it looked dimly, blindly at the low sky. He remembered going swimming with his father as a child. The big fish glided like shadows under him, and he watched him in awe, giving them the dimensions of water monsters. Now the lake was dead. This is actually a story, a fictional story that has been set in Epirus. Epirus is a regional unit in the western part of Greece. And this fiction is about a family story that this family this family lives in a regional unit up to the mountains, and the whole area is a post-industrial area. There was in the past an industry, oil industry there, and we can see now all the impact, all the effects, as we say, of this industrial era, post-industrial era right now. So when we are talking about the lake, you know that the lake, the water, as we say, this water place is full of life, full of fish, other forms of life, microorganisms, and now the lake is dead. This is something in tragedy, as we say. The narrator faces a tragedy, is beyond a tragedy. So he remembered, as we say, the good moments, but now things are dead, are vanished. However, the place gave a general impression of rebirth after deforestation. Another passage that we are on the same, as we say, area. You know that deforestation is a natural event. Deforestation, of course, is not good. It is a bad action, bad human action. But through deforestation, we have the rebirth of ecosystems. So sometimes deforestations are important to have the rebirth, the renewal of ecosystems. But here, deforestation is a little bit, as we say, enigmatic. Another passage, poisonous fistulas were thus opened in the land, and hundreds of acres were steeped bare. However, when the wells were abandoned, the forest claimed the place again, and there were only ruins, like the one in Sensotura, the ruts of the new but already cracked roads, and many rusty cisterns and Swiss tanks. Many have fallen, and animals were now nesting in them, and cotton grew from the holes that had been opened in the pipes. Ancient remains already, and the dense streams awaited the future archaeologists. In the changed place, the reservoirs and the pipes were the new landmarks and signs for the villagers, those who, like living fossils, still lived in the dead villages. So there is, as we say, a catastrophe, a dystopia place, post-apocalyptic place here, that poisonous fistulas, everything, acres of land were steep bare, vanished. And of course, all the forest and everything that is, as we say, included in the forest, the plants, fauna, flora, are, as we say, the victims of this catastrophe. We have to, as we say, make a close reading on the concept of nesting, because we understand that nesting, pragmatologically, is the place that birds, as we say, have their home, the home building. But metaphorically, nesting, as positively understood, is a term that includes something, protects, secure. But here, nesting is, as we say, a bright sign over the darkness. Everything, animals, fauna, flora, are now nesting in this catastrophe. Think that this is something very strange for this positively conceived term, nesting. Nesting is similarly conceived like symbiosis. When something is nesting, when something is nested, means that is protected. But here, this protection is protection from the catastrophe, or everything that is remains. Ancient remains through this darkness waits for these future archaeologists, all of us, as readers, maybe as people that would like to search more, to see, as we say, these landmarks, the remains of this catastrophe. Of course, living fossils still lived in the dead villages. As we say, we are keep man dead walking, living humans that are alive in these dead villages. The oxymoron here, that of course they are living, but who knows how they are living, as we say, under this catastrophe, under this, as we say, dystopian place. 50 meters behind was the old tank with the half-erased letters of Repoil on it, while the plain leaves deepened the brown-red color of the rust with their shadow. Holes had been opened in the metal, a thick layer of rotting leaves had become dirt inside, and the old tank was full of life. Insects, rodents, birds coming in and out. The sycamore forest next to the river had accepted the metallic stranger with a condensation, had surrounded him by shading him, and branches were resting on him and pressing him. So we have, as we say, the remains of this post-industrial era, the old tank, the half-erased letter of Repoil, as we say, we are reading here, and many holes, layers that are very dirt and rotting leaves, the metals, everything, as we say, the remains of this era. And inside this oil tank, we found insects, rodents, birds, fauna, flora again. This is oxymoron again, because fauna, flora, in our perception, lives in harmony in forest, not in old tanks. The new home, the new nesting is the old tank, and the sycamore forest next to the river had accepted the metallic stranger with condensation. We understand here that the patterns, the acoustic patterns of nature have been changed. Metallic stranger. We are not hearing the bird songs, but the metallic strangers. You can understand that things, as we say, in places are changing, and are changing rapidly, drastically, and dramatically. Meat, another passage, from an animal that was sick killed you more slowly than starvation. This is another tragic statement by the narrator. Meat from an animal. So everything has been poisoned. Everything is poisonous. And when you eat something, you are, as we say, slowly, you are actually slowly keep moving to the death. This slow process, it reminds us and recalls Rob Nixon's slow violence. You understand that slow violence and all this effectiveness, all these bad things have been dramatically and slowly impacted on humans and non-human world. The slow processes, not quickly. So starvation is, as we say, the state that we have actually, we are dying from not having food, but slow violence and slow death is another story here to understand. That everything killing you slowly, not quickly. There is, as we say, process to kill you. Whenever he was hungry, he reached out and cut an apple, an apricot appeared from the trees whose juices were poison, and no hand would touch their fruit, as long as there were still hands in the village to touch them. If he was thirsty, he would stand at the upper village fountain, or at the lower one, he would bend down and drink handfuls of the water that had poisoned the place. Again, we understand that everything is poisonous, and these two extras recalls Rob Nixon's slow violence and how people, humans, and non-human life forms are dying slowly under this situation. And this is, as we say, we are in front of an ecological disaster caused by an industry, an oil industry. And apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic narratives works a lot on this topic, on ecological disasters, not only this, but other like deforestation, water oil pollution. So we have to raise some questions. What does it take for a disaster to occur? How are these constitutes constructed to take effect? What is that drives the narrative system of ecological disaster? Because we're talking about anthropocentrism, excessive human interference, adoption, resorting technology, and irrevocable disruption on environment. And of course, the two concepts, cultural ecology, you can understand how is connected here because we are part of our culture and generally environment, and the Anthropocene, entropy, negentropy, precarious lives that humans lead in the event of ecological disaster and the increasing precarious state of the environment itself as a result of human interventions. A little bit of Nayar here. And as part of our dialogue, because I'm working on comparative literature, and my aim actually through my research is to bridge the dialogue, to bring other cultures, other literary traditions in dialogue with modern Greek literature. And Here we have the merit that Orhan Pamuk's Kara Kitap, the Turkish title, has been translated into English, the Black Book, published by Faber and Faber in 2006 and translated by Maureen Freely. There are many chapters, but one of the most, as we say, distinctive chapter is chapter 2, when the Bosphorus dries up. I think that you are all familiar with Bosphorus and the Bosphorus Canal in Istanbul. And let's start, as we say, a little bit of what we have here to analyze. Did you know that the Bosphorus is drying up? I don't think so. Naturally, we're all preoccupied with this frenzied killing spree going on in our streets. And since we seem to enjoy it as much as farmers, we have time to read or to find out what's going in the world. This is the narrator's voice here, what we have to face if Bosphorus is drying up. And there is actually a huge discussion right now in Turkey about the Bosphorus pollution and the canal's future, as we say, in the end of the day, because there are many ships, there are many exploitation, many companies that take profit around the Bosphorus in Turkey. So there is a discussion, and think that Orhan Pamuk is making, as we say, a direct word about it in his book about the future of Bosphorus and the canal here. And what's going in the world? This is a question that all of us actually questioning and resonates. Macropoulos actually voice that we have analyzed. The Black Sea, we are told, is getting warmer. The Mediterranean colder, as their waters continue to empty into the great caves whose gaping holes lie in wait under the sea. The same tectonic movements have caused Gibraltar, the Dardanelles, and the Bosporus to rise. This is true, actually, because the Black Sea is getting warmer, Mediterranean colder, we have climate change, global warming, changes in other sea rise. So the future is dystopia. And I mean, it's unpredictable. All I know is that the water is drying up faster than ever, and soon no water will be left. Another tragic, as we say, statement here. What is beyond doubt is that the heavenly place we once knew as the Bosporus will soon become a pitch black bog, glistening with muddy shipwrecks burying their sunny teeth like ghosts. But in the end of a hot summer, it's not hard to imagine this bog drying up in some parts while remaining muddy in others, like the bed of a humble river that waters a small town in the middle of nowhere. This is the true, as we say, state of what we have to confront. And this disaster that is about to occur, to be occurred, and the conditions that we have to face. I'm speaking now of the new neighborhoods that will take root on this muddy wasteland that we all knew as the Bosporus, even as city councillors rush here and there waving penalty notices. I speak of shanty towns and sacks, bars, nightclubs, and amusement arcades, of rusty horse-down Luna parks of brothels, mosques and dervish lodges of nests where Marxist splinter groups go to hatch their young and rug plastic factories, turn out nylon stockings for the black market. This is exploitation again about the around Bosporus and the bad future that the canal will have in the end of the day in the name of profit and money. No longer will we soothe ourselves with songs about the birds of spring, the fast-flowing waters of the Bosporus, of the fishermen laying on shores. The air will ring stand with the anguished cries of men whose fear of death has driven them to smite their foes with their knives, daggers, bullets, and rusting scimitars that their forefathers, hoping to fend off the usual 1,000-year increase, tossed into the sea. So again, is, as we say, another aspect, another way that people will live in the end of the day. Very different, that is, for example, right now, but very similar to the reality in the end of the near future of Bosporus. As for the Istanbulus, who once lived on the ends of the water, When they return to their homes exhausted of an evening, they will no longer open vast windows to drink in the sea air. Instead, they will stuff newspaper and cloth in the cracks to keep the stink of rotting flesh and mud from seeping in. They'll sit there staring through the glass at the flames that rise from the fearsome black chasm gaping below. Of course, the daily habits will be changed. And people will not have the opportunity to take advantage of the good air, good health. Things are quickly, as we say, it seems that are quickly changing, but again, we have this slow violence, the effectiveness of the catastrophe of Bosphorus in all the, as we say, terms: culture, society, humans, non-humans, everything. It is there at the very bottom of the new valley we once knew as the Bosporus, below a muddy cliff littered with camel bones, bottles bearing mysterious messages for nameless lovers, longboats, and lost their mates 700 years ago. Zoos where crabs now lay their eggs. There behind the slopes where mussel and sponge forests will sparkle with diamonds, earrings, bottle caps, and cold bracelets, past the heron laboratory set up so hastily, and the rotting cell of a bird's just beyond the sunblower where oysters and whelks feed on the buckets of blood gassing from the donkeys and pack horses are ground into black market sausages. What we have to find, as we say, in the bottom of Bosporus. This is true reality, not fauna, flora, not fish, not microorganisms, but whatever we have to think about it. Know that the time has come, so come to me. Let us draw the curtains against the disaster pressing upon us. As darkness enroaches, let us lock ourselves in a last embrace and silently await the hour of our death. Again, death, like Macropolos' death. Similar death, as we say, in different context, in different era, in different cultural systems and traditions. But this, as we say, West and Eastern approach to catastrophe, to dystopia, means that death is everywhere, and slow violently, we are in front of this death, in front of this catastrophe. Think that we are talking about two different authors, that they are living in different areas of the world, in Greece and Turkey, in setting their fictions in different historical moments, different times, literary systems, traditions, but they both raise ecological awareness, and they are talking about catastrophes. This is actually the neighborhood, as we say, between the two countries, that we are neighbors as well. Greeks and Turks on the same direction of having to understand the future that is dystopian in the end of the day. So the Anthropocene, the era that we are living right now, becomes Anthropocene, not only in text, but in general, as it results in not only the degradation of ecological life, but also to the toxicity of social, physical, natural, cultural life. This toxicity is everywhere, metaphorically, of course, not only pragmatologically. Macropolos and Pamuk, through these, as we say, examples, okay, you get, as we say, an idea, because there are endless things here to talk a lot, have made these significant efforts to contribute to the architectonic of negentropic knowledge in Stigler's oeuvre, because Stigler leaves us with a vast array of concepts, of course, in need of explication and application. Moreover, Stigler's work is not simply a systematization of theoretical knowledge, but pertains precisely to reconstruction. This reconstruction is fundamental in comparative literature, to think, to rethink, to construct and reconstruct the layers of text, and provides this architectonic of unreason in the time of nihilism, as well as an architectonic of loneliness and mental implosion. In this way, this architectonic of new ethics of contribution, creation, and construction are found in comparative literature. There is an ethical imperative before us to respond to the chaos of planetary capitalism, of this planetary crisis right now, through this text, very distinctive examples. Ziegler invokes the Niganthropos, a new organological configuration, a new global society and political economy, a new way of life. This is obvious, actually, in the text, new way of life, that we have to keep moving with this new way of life. The goal is to understand the dynamics of these open systems, to think the nature of fragmentary, of vulnerability, of precarity, roaming, non-totalizing thought, to think the concepts of this rhizomatic thought and knowledge, to understand the pharmacon. Which is this pharmacon to heal these situations, and precisely as an open-ended system, and to hold out for the process of what Ziegler calls the great negatropic bifurcation that we have to take into consideration very seriously when working on text, when working in comparative